Hi, I'm Dylan, and this is the Sleep and Stress webinar for the Winter Wellness Warriors program. I'm sitting here on my bed, and I have a very high-tech boom guy, otherwise known as me, holding this microphone. So we're going to be talking about 3 things that you want to be thinking about regarding sleep and then stress. And then within those 4 different categories, there's going to be a bunch of different subcategories and information. So I'm going to have some nice titles over here. They're going to help you as I'm talking. Okay, here we go. So the first thing you want to be thinking about is your sleep routine. This is a thing that a lot of people struggle with. As soon as I start coaching somebody, the first thing I ask them is about their sleep routine. Things that you want to be focusing on are consistency. A lot of people think, do I need to have a certain amount of hours? Is there this magical number? There isn't really a magical number. There is a recommendation to get between 7 and 8 hours every night. It's not realistic for everybody, but what you can do instead is to have a very consistent bedtime. So if you're trying to go to sleep somewhere between, 9 and 10 every night, and then waking up at the same time every day, that will actually help just as much as if you have a lot of sleep. Now, you actually do need a certain amount of hours because the body does different things when we're sleeping. It kind of turns on its auto clean system when we're sleeping, and if we're not, and it does different things at certain hours and at certain periods of time. I didn't know this myself, don't worry if you didn't know it. But if you're not sleeping, what you're doing is you're interfering with the body's ability to kind of clean itself out and rejuvenate you and cleanse. So that's really why you want to be getting sleep. It's super crucial. Another thing to be thinking about is electronics. This is a big thing that a lot of us are struggling with these days because we're so addicted to our electronic devices, so iPads, iPhones. A good practice is to put the thing away, turn it off. If you need an alarm, put it maybe in airplane mode or whatever that new thing is to be able to go on by itself. You could charge it in the next room even. That will help substantially. And just basically put it in whatever setting you need to so that it won't disturb you. Sometimes I get a random text message late at night after I've gone to bed and it really frustrates me. So I can't obviously prevent other people from sending messages, but I can turn it off so that it doesn't disturb my sleep. Okay, so the next thing we're going to be talking about is sleep setting. So think about the whole space around your bed, the whole lighting area, temperature, the setting of where you sleep every night. There's all kinds of different factors that you want to be thinking about, so you're going to need to experiment with different kinds of things to find what works. A lot of folks just complain or struggle with not really getting good sleep, but sometimes it's because they're not actually troubleshooting and experimenting with different things. They keep doing the same things, but not changing things up and expecting a different result, which I'm not sure if you knew is the definition of insanity. So you want to be switching things up. So I'm going to give you some ideas. I had a queen-size bed that I bought. It's a platform frame, and I love it. I got it at a used furniture store for like $15 a long time ago, and it's still holding up, and it's awesome, and I love it. It was one of the best investments I ever made, if you could even call $15 an investment. And I've kept that in a lot of different apartments. But there was an apartment that I lived in that was so small for a year that I bought a twin day bed. And what I learned from sleeping on a twin-sized bed for a year is that it's not ideal for me. And it worked for a year, but it definitely impacted the quality of sleep I had. It was also impacted by another variable, which I'll talk about in a second, which was the noise outside. But let's stick to the bed thing. So you want to be really clear about what kind of size you need. For instance, do you hate a wall behind you? Do you hate walls on either side of you? I like a wall behind my head, so that's why my bed is now stationed like that. Other factors that you want to be thinking about in your sleep setting is light. Like I said, do you like a really dark room? Do you like light? So I'll turn this around for a second so you can see what my view is. You can obviously see there's a lot of light in my bedroom. It's coming from there, which I wake up and look at every single morning, and it's amazing. And but there was a time where I stayed in someone's room and they had so many curtains over the windows that it was like blackout. And I have to say, I did sleep really well when I stayed in that room, but I can't tell you that I would really want that for myself every single night. I kind of feel like I might get a little depressed, especially in the winter. But that works for that person. And that's, something that I really want to highlight is what works for one person doesn't work for another person, but you need to figure out what works for you. Another factor you want to be thinking about is sound. There was an apartment that I had when I lived in downtown Boston that was right on a main street, and there's ambulances going by all the time, and I hardly slept at all that year, and it wasn't really a good year. And then more recently, I was doing the same thing, and I adjusted over time, but I found that my sleep was really contingent on the noises of the city, and I slept with earplugs every single night. So while I did get sleep, it came at that price, which was to go through boxes of earplugs. So when I was moving, one of the things that I prioritized was quiet, because that was something that I had not had enough of for too long, and that's something I wanted and needed. One thing you want to think about is the temperature. Generally, it's wise to have your room temperature maybe around 66, 64. And then you can obviously pile blankets on or take things off. It depends on where you live, of course. It also depends on if you have somebody in the bed with you. You want to compensate for that body heat too. And one last factor that you want to be thinking about is clutter. You want to be looking at the space around your sleeping area, and you want to really notice how many piles of things you have, what kinds of things are around your bed, because what happens is when you go to get into your bed, your subconscious is taking all of that in, and that's going to be affecting the quality of your sleep and the quality of your dreams and what you're thinking about. As a general rule, I keep the area around my bed extremely tidy, extremely free of clutter, and I also make my bed every single morning as soon as I get out of it, and then kind of turn it down for myself before I'm getting ready for bed. And the routine of that is I find very soothing, very comforting, and helps me sleep better. I also do nothing in my sleeping area other than sleep and meditate. So this whole portion of where I am and sleeping is just dedicated to that. So my brain associates this area with sleeping and rest and relaxation, which also contributes to better sleep quality. Okay, now we're going to get even more intimate with your actual bed and some things that you want to be thinking about with your actual bed. First thing I want to highlight is your mattress. Size we talked about a little bit, but quality and contents, like what it's actually made of. If you have a lot of dollars that you want to drop on an organic mattress, that's great. It's not realistic for everybody. For years, I had the old kind of spring foam standard mattress, and that was fine. What I've evolved into is the foam mattresses. So I have one mattress that's from Casper. It's a really great company. And then I did end up getting another mattress from IKEA. The one I got from IKEA, I got the wrong one. It's extra firm. It's kind of like sleeping on plywood, but I actually really like that. I really like a firm bed. I don't really like soft beds. I did buy one of those egg crate things, which I do want to share. They're made of synthetic materials, and they do or do not breathe really well. So that's something you want to be thinking about. And then another layer, you didn't think sleep was this complicated, did you? Another layer is the things that you have on your bed. So the sheets and the blankets, what materials are they made out of? I've kind of adopted using 100% cotton as much as I can. I find that the blends don't breathe as well for me, and I get kind of like sweaty and overheat. You also want to be thinking about what you're wearing to bed and how many layers you have on and how that affects how your body temperature will rise or cool off as you stop moving around and as you're laying there for a while in combination with the things that are covering you. It's pretty complicated, right? And I really want to encourage you to not get stressed out by this, and stress is the next thing we're going to be talking about, but rather to be thinking about this and be very mindful of all these different factors that you could play around with and experiment with to improve the quality of your sleep. So for this portion, we're going to be talking about different supplements, different aids, different things you can consume or avoid to improve the quality of your sleep. The first thing that you want to be thinking about is caffeine. You want to really restrict your caffeine consumption after, let's say, 4 p.m., and you really want to consume no more than 1 or 2 cups a day. It's actually okay to have coffee, but it's the amount that you're consuming that not only isn't good for the rest of your health, but would absolutely impact the quality of your sleep. Second thing you want to be thinking about is drinking more water, and drinking more water earlier in the day up to about 6 p.m., and then really cutting back after that time. And the reason for that is that you want to get most of your hydration starting first thing in the morning and not waiting until the evening when you maybe are dehydrated and you're chugging a lot of water. And then what happens is that it actually impacts your sleep because you're waking up to go to the bathroom. Whereas you drink more water earlier in the day, you're hydrated throughout the day, and then you get to the evening and it's not going to disturb your sleep pattern. Sugar is another thing you want to be thinking about, especially, again, after 6 p.m. in those hours before when your body's trying to ramp down and hormones are starting to be produced to help you fall asleep naturally. If you're having a lot of sugar, including chocolate, which contains caffeine, you're basically confusing the heck out of your body. It doesn't really know what to do. And if you're consuming a lot of sugar and then expecting to just fall asleep, it's just not going to work. Also, things like water and sugar and caffeine, and also what you eat for dinner, will impact your body temperature and impact your metabolism, which then comes out when you're sleeping and would, again, affect the hormones and the regulation of your sleep patterns. So you want to be thinking about what you're eating before you go to bed. Is it spicy? Is it hot? Is it calming? Did you have a hard time digesting it? All of these things will add up to affecting your sleep. Now, some supplements that you could consider if you're really having a hard time. I recommend you try all of the things that I talked about, including how much light you have, what temperature the room is, what kind of sheets you're sleeping on, what size is your bed. Really think about all of these things, including turning off electronics. Again, all of the things I've discussed before you resort to something like a prescription for sleeping. Those things have some really not great side effects. I'm not anti-prescription, I'm an integrative health coach, but they also often have negative side effects, and from a lot of the people that I've known that have taken sleeping pills, they actually say that they don't work. So you might as well try all these other things that have little to no negative impact on you to see which one of those, or which 5 of those, work before resorting to a prescription. Some natural things that you could try are valerian. It's an herb. It might knock you on your butt. It might not have any impact on you at all. It doesn't smell really good, so I recommend, instead of drinking valerian tea, to get valerian in capsules. Melatonin is another one that you could try. It's actually produced by the body, and if you're not producing enough of it on your own, you can take more of it as a supplement, anywhere from 1 milligram up to 5 or 10 milligrams. You want to be really careful with melatonin. Everybody reacts differently to it, and if you have something to get up for the next day, you want to maybe practice with your melatonin maybe over the weekend if you don't work on weekends, and give your body a chance to adjust and tell you how much it needs so that you don't oversleep and miss something important. There are also sleep blends that you could get in capsule form. You could get this at a health food store or Whole Foods or something, and they all actually contain a combination of different ingredients that could help you change your sleep patterns. And the last thing I want to talk about, that's probably the biggest thing impacting your sleep right now, is stress. That's why I combined sleep and stress into one webinar portion, because stress is with you all the time and it's impacting your body all the time, consciously and unconsciously, subconsciously. And so when you put your head down on a pillow to go to bed, in the background is all of the noise of the stuff that you're thinking about and is on your mind and disturbing you. I went through several periods where I was having a very hard time sleeping, and even though on the surface I was doing all the right things, all the things I've recommended to you as far as the sheets and the water and all the things, but there was a major source of stress in my life, 1 or 2 major sources, and so that was impacting my ability to sleep, no matter the other things that I did. So let's talk a little bit about that. You want to be thinking about what is causing you stress. And there are sometimes things that people aren't really thinking about. So, a relationship of any kind, whether it's family, friends, a partner, something like that. You want to be thinking about the relationships that are kind of like eating away at you, that you're not really addressing, things that you're not saying, things that you're putting up with. That's going to be causing you stress. Similarly, work. If you're in a job where you're not feeling respected, or you're not really advocating for yourself, or the work is boring, if it's just not a good fit, that's going to be causing you stress as well. If you're exercising too little or exercising too much, that's going to be stressing your body. If you're working out too hard and you're in pain, that's physical stress. That's going to manifest, your brain, your body is going to do something with that. If you're not exercising enough, you're literally not getting out the stress, so that's going to be just building up in your body. If you're listening to this and finding yourself getting stressed just listening, that's okay. You can turn it off and take a break and come back to it. My point in sharing all this information with you and all these different variables is to really get you thinking about all the different variables and all the different factors that are impacting your ability to sleep or not sleep. And since one of the major ones is stress, it's really important to be thinking critically about the different factors that are in your life that are causing you stress so that you can start to begin to eliminate them or reduce them or do something about them. One major one is what's going on in the world right now. So I'm finding it really helpful to really limit the amount of time I spend on social media, actually unfollowing people or hiding the posts of people that I find to be really negative or really antagonistic. I know that they think what they're posting or what they're sharing is good and it's helping, but it's actually not helping me because I know what I need and I know the amount of information I need to stay informed. And so I'm actually controlling and managing just what I'm taking in and digesting from what other people are putting out, which is a good rule of thumb in just general how to live life, but especially now with such a overwhelming amount of information and emotion, it's a really good time to practice your own boundaries around that. So if I could leave you with one overriding tip or tool, is that your sleep quality and your stress level are completely within your boundaries to control. And what it will take is some experimentation and some trial and error, but you will figure out what works best for you. And once you do, you will definitely experience improved quality of sleep, and which will definitely impact your quality of life. But you're going to have to take on that work and really see it as your job. There's no magic pill that anyone could give you, not even a prescription, that would make everything better or would fix everything. So it's going to take some time, but I think if you really, watch this and consider and try everything that I've shared with you, you'll really notice a difference. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next webinar.